Hi again. Now, in my previous example using Keynote of having a line draw, I showed you a way to do that using the new line draw build, plus how to draw a line using one of the shape features in Keynote. Let's have a look at that again so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Here is the overall slide with its builds. There are 12 builds on this. Let's just take you through it one more time. So let's hit the play button. So we have warning comes up. It's going to split. The dollar is going to come down. As you can see here, in a time fashion, the dollar moves. Remember, the meaning I'm trying to say is that when you adopt new equipment into your workflow, sometimes it will be costly. Sometimes it will cost time, not just money. And there's also something of a learning curve. So here's the curve that I want to go through with you, just to remind you of what we're doing here. The curve goes up and awesome things I can do, but hold on, it doesn't quite work the way I thought it was going to work. But then there's another learning curve that kicks in. And now I'm learning the best ways of doing this as I incorporate this new technology into my workflow. Okay, so I have another group of slides here where I've eliminated all the other stuff, and we're just going to have a look at this. So what we're going to try and do is, what about though if I just want to get up to here and stop it so that we can talk about awesome, and then we can talk to the audience. Have you ever done this? Bought a product, you thought that's just awesome, and then just have this next part coming in where people can then say, yeah, I've had that experience though, that the learning curve dropped and I was disillusioned, it didn't work, and then all of a sudden I thought, no, persevere, and then it goes up. In other words, we want this not to be continuous, we want to split it into sections. There are 2 to 3 ways to do this, quite elegant. I'm going to show you a couple of ways to do it, staying within Keynote and not having to use third-party software. Nothing wrong with that. But sometimes an elegant approach is to stay within Keynote, see what you can do in Keynote and really explore it. And where it doesn't work or falls over, then use a third-party software, even one that comes from Apple. So the effect I'm trying to do, let's show you what I'm talking about. So here's the Keynote. So sometimes you bought a product and you think, wow, that's just awesome. And it stops there, and then you can have a conversation. But then sometimes you go down into this trough where it doesn't do what it's meant to do. It's not figuring into my workflow. I've been overpromised something and this product is under-delivering. But then you persevere and you find out how to put it into your workflow, and up it goes. So this is basically a reproduction of the elements that I was using. And let me show you. Here is the element in the first place in its entirety, as you can see. And here it is when I've done something different. I've in fact created an element here, and an element here, and simply join them up. And each of these, if we go over to the build order, which is here, you can see the shape comes in, and after it's come in, it ends up the top with a slight delay, is the word awesome. Click, shape, click, the next shape comes in, which is into the trough, and then again after a slight delay when it finishes, I want them quite discreet, in comes the words using the typewriter build, but it doesn't do what I want, and then the shape comes in after build 4 on a click, and then the words come in with a longer delay. And the reason there's a longer delay is that I wanted the words to come in. So watch it again and you'll see why I've got that longer delay in there. So up it comes, yada yada yada, it stops, and you think, ah, that's awesome. Now down it pops, slight stop, boom, and then up we go. And as it's going up, and it hasn't yet finished, because really the main part has already come up on the up part, and so as the line continues along, there's not much more information to be delivered there. And you can see now, if I go back into the builds, now I see it here, comes in with build 5. The other ones come in after the build, but this one comes in with build 5, but with a slight delay. So it's already on its way, and as the build continues, the words come in, and that's the effect I actually wanted. I wanted the words to come in as the build is still going along. Okay, so we have 3 elements. Okay, so, and really all you have to do, if I can show you to, is this: we go to the draw with the pen, and all you're really going to do is just do your elements along the way as you ordinarily would, and stop at a peak, and then double click on this, so now it's done, and then you're going to do it again, draw the pen, and then down it comes until it gets down the bottom, and then of course you're going to smooth all of this out. Okay, so if you double click on this, do a select all, it's only going to select those that you've highlighted, and then from there you can start to play around and move it around. Okay, so you can take this top one here, deselect it, the dots still stay there, and then you can start to kind of play around with it, you know, join it up, and then do your select all one more time, and now you're going to go into the format shapes and lines, make smooth part, and that's where you can once more smooth it out. Make sure that all the red dots are unselected, otherwise you won't be able to move each little element around in the way you want to. Okay, so that's kind of how you can do this second element. Now there is a way to do it where you take this one here and you select it all out. Okay, and that would be kind of cool to be able to do the whole lot and then unselect certain sections of them, then split this big one up into sections. It's really a lot of hard work, and I don't advise that way. And the way to do it would be just to create these elements here, join it up. This one here has to be smoothed out as well. Yeah, so you want to select all of those one more time, select all, image, lines, make smooth, and then deselect it, and then you can start to play with the individual lines so that you get that kind of curve that you want. Okay, there we go. Unclick, and now you can see you've got these 2 separate areas, and your audience isn't going to see, and that's how you do it. And you do the same thing for the third one. Okay, so we can actually get rid of this one here, the original one, and this one here. Okay, have this one here. If you want, you can sort of drag that there. This one's a little bit off, isn't it? So double click on here, drag it down so it matches, and you're kind of in business. The audience isn't going to see this very much. If you want to get in really close, you can do 150% and get in really close, and do it that way if you want to. So now I want to show you another way. Rather than building up that line draw in its sequences, there's a better way. Let's just imagine you've drawn a really complicated series of drawings and elements and lots of stuff going on, and you're really satisfied with it, but then you've decided, no, I really would like to break it down into sections. And rather than having to redraw everything again, let me go with the original one, and can I segment that one up with the original one? I don't have to redraw every little element. Well, you can. So this is a way of using Keynote's export function, where you can create a QuickTime movie and then edit the QuickTime movie within Keynote, not have to go outside, within Keynote, and adjust your timing so you get the builds that you want. Let me show you how to do this. So let's head back into Keynote here. Here's what we're going to export. Now I want you to notice a small thing about this, and that's that. Do you notice the little blue corner here? That tells you that something's going to happen. And that something that's going to happen in the blue corner means that there's a transition on this slide. If we go to the right-hand side of the screen, as I look at it, we can see it's a flop transition. If I go to none, that blue triangle disappears. This is actually how you want it to be. But let's just say you inadvertently leave it in. So I'm going to do an undo here. And now we've got the flop. So we're going to include the flop because maybe you made a mistake, you forgot to take it out. You don't have to do this all over again. Okay, so I'm just going to show you this as a little example. So from here, all the other slides that you don't need, which are part of the stack over here, you don't need them. You just use the skip slide and just eliminate them all and just have this one. Export to, and we're going to use QuickTime. We can safely ignore, we don't need to do anything here because we're going to edit the video as we need it to be. It's actually going to appear in real time as it would according to your own builds that you created. Hit next and down pops this dialog box. Let's save this as line draw. We'll call that all one word. Hit export and watch what happens next. It's going to create the movie. Off it goes. It takes its time, takes a few seconds. Of course, a really complicated slide is going to take longer. And what we're going to do next is locate that movie, which is this one. I've stored it, it's 4.1 meg. It's stored at the top because I've selected under the profile in the dialog box date modified, and I usually leave that as standard, so it's at the top of the list rather than alphabetical. And then all you have to do is just drag this across underneath, and it's going to create its own little slide here. Boom, and there it sits. That's kind of neat. And if you want to, we are going to create three of the same. Okay, duplicate section, duplicate selection. Why three? Because we have three of the same movie on each of these slides now. We know that there's a movie there because of these dots. Okay, and no transition. That's very important. So the same movie is on both, on all three. So if I click this, you'll see that the movie is going to start to play. And the timing is as it was in the original slide. Okay, we can stop it now. So what we're going to do is we're going to head across to Format on the top right hand corner here. And we have Format. That's the name of the file. You can play it from here. Sometimes this edit movie will be closed, so you want to open this up. Okay, and there are a couple of other little things here that we're going to play with in a moment. Okay, so that's what we have. Good. Let's go back up to this first one. What we want is just that first element that ends in awesome and stops up the top. Remember that, because then we're going to talk about awesome. Grab at the end, at the very end, and just slide it back, and you'll see what happens here. And awesome has already come in, as you can see, and this is the top here. This is where, about here, is where we'd like it to stop. And you'll notice that it starts at 0, and then it ends 7.5 seconds in. That's where that top part finished, 7.5 seconds. I'm just going to make it 0 because just to be accurate. Watch what happens if I bring it back, say down to 7.3. And you'll see it actually comes back just a wee bit. We've got a bit of a spinning wheel here. Sometimes this happens, it's stopped now. So we're going to go to 7.3. And if I hit the tab key, that will put it in. Watch how the line comes back a fraction. There we go. So you could stop it there. I'm going to go back. I'm going to do an undo and go back to 7.5. Undo trim. And it's going to go back to 7.5 here. In previous versions of Keynote, by the way, this number you couldn't fiddle with. You had to play with this particular little arrow here, and it was hit and miss, I have to tell you. It was very much hit and miss. So 7.5, and that's where it ends up here. All right, that's where the movie is going to play to. By the way, did you notice how long it took for the movie to start to play? And sometimes you don't want that. So what you can do, watch how long it takes before the movie actually starts to play. I drag this up, still nothing happening after 1.5 seconds. 2 seconds have elapsed. 2.5 seconds almost. Now it starts. So I'm going to trim it to 2 seconds in a bit. There we go. Just down to 2 seconds roughly. And also I can change this myself as well. 2 seconds. So that I need to know that when I go click, the movie is going to start. The click goes from the previous slide to this one, which means down the bottom here where it says start movie on click, you want to not have that on. Why? Because it means you go click from the previous slide onto this slide, nothing happens, then you've got to click a second time to get the movie going. You don't want that. You want the movie to start as soon as the transition occurs. One click. So make sure this is not on a click if this is the way you want to do it, otherwise you'll be double clicking. Okay, so that's that one. Second one, this is the build where it drops down into the, oh my god, I don't like this at all. So it's going to have to start at 7.5. And now this is where you want to get this out accurately, 7.5. Okay. And that's where you want that one to come in, and again, get that off. All right. It's going to start at 7.5. So let's go from this one to the next one. That's all we've got, just these two. Let's see what happens. So, automatic start, because I told it not to click, goes up the top and sits. Yada, yada, yada. Next part continues on. But it doesn't do. Of course, in this case, it's going to continue on because we still want to do the third slide. But you've got the idea. All right? That means on this second slide, we have to put a stop in. So the same process as the first one. Bring this back to where you think is the bottoming out, which is about here, which is roughly 10.405. I'm going to make it 10.5 because it's just easier to remember. 10.5, watch what happens. It goes up a little bit. Not too much, a little bit, just 10.5. Okay? And the poster frame tells you what will be on the screen with the second slide, 7.5. Make sure this is unclicked. And now we come to the third slide, and the third slide is going to start here, where this one ends at 10.5. Go to here. Click on the slide. Okay, it starts at 10.5. And this is where you just have to fiddle with it. And now you just have to type it in, 10.5, boom. And if you hit the play, you can see what's going to happen. Okay. And off it goes. Wonderful. By the way, you'll notice if you pull this back, there's a little bit of lag time. So watch. I've already come back from. Oh, can you see? This is the flip or the flop transition. So we're going to get rid of that. We don't want that coming in at all. So I can pull this back, and notice there's lots of leeway here because of that flop transition. Watch where the top line starts to come back. This is where. About here, you're going to stop it. 20 seconds, that's a whole 5 seconds you've saved now. Okay? Whole 5 seconds you've saved. So now we have the three things. Let's have a look and see how this works. So, automatically builds in because you've clicked in from the previous slide. Stops at awesome. You have a bit of a chat to your audience. Hit the next key. Stops down here. and then the next key. Now you see what's happened. I've had to now hit it twice because I didn't remove the tick box. And let me show you just for evidence that that's exactly what happened here. Let's go out of this. Let's click on this. See? Start moving on click. And that's what happened. See, I had a double click, and in the middle, if I hadn't have seen this in the middle of a presentation, I might have gone, oh, what's going on here? And had to do a second click because it's not working as I expected. So make sure you do get rid of this, start moving on click, and now it's going to work. So let's just do this from the second slide. Down it comes. Boom, stop, yada, yada, yada. Have a bit of a discussion. Hit one click and off it goes. And there we go. Excellent. Now, so that's staying within Keynote and editing the movie, and we've actually got 3 movies, and the audience does not know how many slides you've got. They don't care, it's no importance, just it's important for you to know. There is one more way to do this, by the way, and that's using a screen movie software. It could be ScreenFlow, it could be Camtasia, it could be Voila. As it turns out, QuickTime, the latest version of QuickTime, not 7, but let's hit QuickTime here. And there is a feature within QuickTime. We're going to hit done, we don't want that, but we're going to stay in it. We want a new movie, and it's a new screen recording. Can you see? This gives you your microphone choices. We're not going to worry about that. We don't want that. All we want is a screen recording. So you can get that started, and you can see click to record the full screen, drag to record part of the screen. We are going to end recording by clicking the stop button in the menu bar, which is up there. So we're going to click that here, and now the movie is going. We hit play and do the whole thing. Over it goes. And it comes to a stop. We need to get rid of that. And up the top here, you hit that. And now we've got the screen recording, and it's going to play. But now this is the complete screen recording. But still, what you have to do is you have to do some editing of this. And so within this this particular software, there's a way to edit. So you can see split clip. The thing you want is the trim, so you can trim it to where you want it to be. There we go. And then you can do the whole thing. You duplicate the whole thing 3 times. Okay, and then you can just do this and hit trim, and that's all that's going to happen. Watch. So this is in QuickTime. And you do the same thing for the other. You make a copy of that other movie and do the same thing again and trim it in between. But I think you can see that this is not a particularly elegant way of doing it, and where possible, you want to stay within QuickTime. So I hope you enjoyed this. There are other ways of doing this, but these are a couple of elegant ways of doing it. For me, I like to stay within Keynote as much as possible until I exhaust all its possibilities, and then I move on to third-party software. Hope you enjoyed.